Clarity Act complications, Ed's big ADA idea, and Iagon make some big changes to staking. Keep watching to find out more. Alrighty guys, another week, another circus in crypto. No fluffs, no intros. We're getting straight into it, starting off with the charts. As you can see, Bitcoin has more or less just been going sideways at just over 70,000. Ethereum is more or less going sideways. As you can see, it's pretty much a common trend that everything's going sideways. Everyone's just responding to negative and positive news one day, the next. It's all over the place. Could be market manipulation. Obviously, there's the war at stake. That's what's happening as well. So good time to be buying. Everything's just going sideways, and it's also at a net lower than what it was before. There's some good opportunities for extended periods of time. We'll have a look at taptools to look at the Cardano native tokens, and just remember this is all against ADA. So Knight has pretty much gone sideways against ADA in the last week. World Mobile token is down 22% against ADA in the last week. SNEC is down 5% against ADA in the last week. AGIX is up 15% against ADA in the last week, and Iagon is down about 2% against ADA in the last week. Strike is down 4.5% against ADA in the last week, and they're all the major tokens. So as you can see, more or less, the Cardano natives are bleeding against ADA as there's more and more uncertainty in the world at the moment. So starting off with some news, there's been some Clarity Act tensions. Another week, another Clarity Act tension, right? There's been differing sources of news saying, hey, things are really, really close. And then you'll hear something else the next day. The banks one day reported, yeah, we're super happy. We really like the way the bill is. But then you've got Coinbase and the crypto side that are saying, hey, well, you've pulled it way too much on your side. So as I've said before, the tension is between banks don't wanting central exchanges to have too big of the yield of their stablecoin yield. So that's their market, right? That's where you get your bank interest. So they don't want that to be competitive, so they want it lower, right? Meanwhile, the centralized exchanges are obviously tackling the banks head on, and they want a bigger slice of the pie because that's what they're competing against. That's who they're trying to defeat. That's their competitor, right? So that's where that tension is at the moment. And it seems like one week the bill is amended towards one side, and then obviously the person who that is benefiting is really happy with it and makes the other person upset. So it's all about finding that middle ground, and how long it takes to find that middle ground where both parties is happy, who knows? So this was a really good post by Ed and stuff. So he spoke about how Solana has created a white glove developer platform. So pretty much it's a one-stop shop that either has everything or close to everything that a developer would want when they're coming into the ecosystem. So it will have seamless integrated tools and APIs, direct treasury funding via governance, professional marketing and go-to-market support, VIP onboarding instead of good luck, no more building in a vacuum. So it'll have the APIs for 20 plus providers of stablecoins, real world assets, payments, compliance, custody, and more. It's creating this system and an interface with tools so that these developers who want to develop on Cardano have the support in all facets of creating a dApp. Right. So currently they need to source these from all over the shop and do it on their own. And it's quite cold and scary, right? Like they don't have that support. Meanwhile, you've got Solana who are doing it better than anyone else, who are creating a nice, warm, cozy spot for them to go in and get everything they need to create the dApp of their dreams. Developers will go where they're supported. And currently Cardano is not supporting developers. And if they do, it's not at the right level. So this is something as an ecosystem we could be doing a lot better. As Ed said himself, what he has proposed isn't perfect. It could do with a little tweaking. It's not my place to be making those suggestions, well above my pay grade, but there have been some great suggestions in the comments, and I highly recommend everyone reading this. He finishes off saying, like, I think it'd be a good idea for someone to do this. Well, I think Ed should do it. I think Ed is a very well-respected person in the Cardano space. He has good contacts, and I think if he at least got the ball rolling with a proposal, I would find a lot of people would back it, even if he seeks some support from his connections first and get some advice on some little amendments that he could make, and then create an almost perfect proposal and then propose it and then get the ball rolling. So Ed, if you're listening, if you're watching, please get this going. This is an awesome idea, and I'm sure the community will back this idea because it's an awesome idea. Thank you. So this week, taptools made a post sharing that Iagon currently has the biggest staking inflow on the Cardano ecosystem, right? So 500,000 ADA worth of iagon has been staked in the last 7 days. This is incredible news. This is showing that IAG holders are committed. They want to stake. They're happy to be in here for the long run. They're not looking to quickly hop out and in. They're not traders. They're people with long-term vision who back the project. Really good pickup from taptools and some great data. So you may or may not have seen that I made a video about iagon's new tier list system regarding their staking. So pretty much they've set a bunch of parameters for what you are required to have to meet a certain tier. A higher tier level means that you'll get higher rewards. So pretty much it's encouraging people to strive to be a bit better, which equals the ecosystem being stronger, which will attract the enterprise grade adoption that iagon is working towards, right? So obviously it means that some people might stray away from the smaller nodes. So for example, you might have a node that doesn't have the biggest data or the fastest or the quickest, but they've got their purpose, right? So for case one, you've got a family, an individual who has photos that they might access once or twice a year. Why do they need 1 gigabyte up and down? They don't, right? So they've got their place. Meanwhile, you've got all these enterprise grade nodes that are created with 1 gigabyte plus up and down. That's what the enterprises want. That's what's going to attract them. That's what's going to bring them over. So they've each got their place. And something to remember is that the smaller nodes will typically have a smaller margin, right? While the bigger nodes who are providing a stronger, more secure service, they'll have a bigger margin because they're putting a lot more work. They're paying a lot more for the nodes themselves. The uptime, this requires a lot of effort, a lot of money to facilitate all of this, right? It's not free. They will have a higher margin. At the end of the day, you need to calculate, am I better off going into a smaller node with less anticipated rewards, but I get a bigger margin? Or am I better off going to a bigger node with a higher margin and what they leave over for me is competitive to the smaller node? You need to do the math yourself. I don't think it's as straightforward as a lot of people are making it out to be. And I don't think that you'll see the flow of IAG from small nodes to big nodes as a lot of people are making out to be as well. So do your own research. Don't follow the masses. Investigate and look into the dashboard and make up your own decision. iagon also have released news regarding borrow stake. So pretty much node operators are going to be able to borrow stake from the iagon team. And what that means is you, at the time of borrowing, you will have a calculated ADA cost for what you're going to borrow. So let's say at the time of borrowing, the iagon that you're borrowing is worth 100 ADA. Then you're going to be borrowing this for 6 to 24 months period of time. So effectively, it is a long of iagon against ADA. Now, I don't know about you, but I personally believe that iagon will far outpace Cardano. I personally see you'll see some really bullish action against ADA. So this is effectively longing your stake against ADA. So here's the scenario. You borrow the iagon, it's worth 100 ADA. That's calculated and that price is locked in. And then at the end of the loan period, you pay that locked in initial price. Right? Now, if you're bullish on iagon against ADA, in a year or two, that iagon should technically be up against ADA, and therefore you've made that leveraged trade, if you will, of staking. So let's say in the future that iagon evaluation in ADA is like 500 ADA, 1000 ADA, whatever it is, I imagine it'll be higher than the 100. You've effectively made it worthwhile. And you've made a profit, just like leverage trading, except for staking. So I think it's a really cool idea. I think it's a great way to fill up nodes. I think it's a great way to bootstrap the ecosystem from the iagon team to get that enterprise adoption, to show that there is the data and the storage available. And finally, don't forget about the fluidtokens iagon loan. I think we're just over the 20% mark, somewhere between 20 to 25%. There are still so many great options available. If you're just staking your ADA, or if you're coming over from a competing loan service, the loans are very competitive. The highest interest rate is 9% and the lowest is 4%. And we've got loan periods from 2 years down to 9 months. So if you're staking, it's better to be here. Why earn 3 point whatever percent instead of 9%? Massive difference. Your ADA could be doing so much more and you're helping the ecosystem get institutional integration. So it's a win-win for you and for the ecosystem. And by doing so, by getting institutional integration, you are going to be working towards increasing the value of each of your individual ADA, right? Institutional integration equals ADA price go up. The math is simple. It's a win-win. So have a look at it. I think it's a really great idea, and you will be making more money and you're helping the ecosystem. So guys, that wraps up this video. I hope you've learned something new. If you found it beneficial, please follow me on X and subscribe to me on YouTube. If you have any questions or feedback, please drop a comment and give us a like, and I'll see you for the next one. I hope everyone has a great week.